Hey guys, I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and 10 months ago, Google revolutionized the game with Android. They opened up the web store and they launched the Nexus 1. It was made by HTC, and at the time it was revolutionary. You know, it had Android 2.1, 1 gigahertz processor, stuff that wasn't on the market at the time. It was a substantial leap from technology to technology, so it was a cool device. Unfortunately, it didn't sell that well, so they're taking a new approach with the Nexus S, their newest device made by Samsung, and it's available at Best Buy locations starting on December 16th for $199. Different sales model, different approach, but you have to ask, it has a 1 gigahertz processor as well, 4-inch display, 5 megapixel camera, front-facing camera, and it's running Android 2.3 or Gingerbread, so it's a cool device, but in terms of gaps between the Android devices, it's not as big as it was when the Nexus 1 came out. Can it hold its own? Will it be the device to have for the holiday season? We'll find out in the full review. But first, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with 2 of these so we can give them to you in the One Paw Bandit game. One thing I like about Best Buy Mobile, you go in to buy this, which you have to buy it at Best Buy anyway, but you go in to buy it, you walk out working. You don't have to set up your email. They'll do it for you. Set up email, set up web. They'll take care of it. Best Buy Mobile will set you up. Enough of that. Let's get into the review. Is it the best Android phone? Is it going to be the best Android phone for, let's say, 6 months, 8 months? Well, I don't know because I'm not psychic, but we'll find out in the review, which starts right now. Okay, here it is, the Google Nexus S made by Samsung, and it's the much ballyhooed successor to the Nexus 1, which was made by HTC. Now, it has a 1 gigahertz Hummingbird processor, 5 megapixel camera with a flash, a front-facing camera, and a 4-inch Super AMOLED display. And, of course, the big highlight is that it's running Android 2.3 or Gingerbread. So, you know, it's a feature-packed device, but the question that seems to be going around on the internet is, when the Nexus 1 came out, you know, that 1 gigahertz processor, that was an astronomical thing, you know. 1 gigahertz processor, Android 2.1, it was a super phone, whereas this one kind of falls into, you know, a slew, if you will, of other Android devices that have a 1 gigahertz processor and a 4-inch display or 4.3-inch display. So, where the HTC Nexus 1 was, you know, 10 steps ahead, this one may only be 1 step ahead, if it even competes with the high-end devices on the market. I think it competes, but you know, in terms of where it's at, as opposed to the Nexus 1, it's not nearly as far ahead. But you know, testing has been a good device thus far. You can see the buttons at the bottom if you didn't watch the unboxing. The buttons at the bottom have changed. Just now from left to right, it's back, menu, search, and home. Now, you know, it comes with Android 2.3, and from a design perspective, there are some minor changes. You know, I'll go through those in the video, but you'll notice little things like color changes between, on the notifications bar, for example, darker gray, lighter gray, a nice transition between dark gray, light gray, and black versus that kind of drab gray background that was there on 2.2 and past versions. You can see that the notifications bar, the signal strength indicator, the battery life, that's changed as well, along with the clock. There's no more AM or PM, so you can see, and of course all of that is green. So some minor changes there. The dock on the bottom has changed as well. It's colorful. The phone is green, and the browser, the land parts of the little globe, those are green as well. Otherwise, you know, a lot of similarities to Android 2.2. It's not a huge revision. Again, that's coming with Android 3.0 or Honeycomb. But you can see, you know, the menu looks pretty similar. And then out of the box, this is what you get, with the exception of a couple of programs I've installed, Quadrant Standard and Speed Test. The rest you get out of the box. Browser, calendar, typical Google stuff, Google Earth, Gmail, you know, messaging, of course, news and weather, Google Talk, Google Voice, YouTube, the new YouTube app, and then tags. This is an NFC device, NFC-capable device, near-field communication. So if you happen to walk somewhere and you see one of these on the door, you can hold the device up to it. Let me see, hold it up to it from the back, and it collected the tag off of this. So, you know, if we go into this, it'll show the video of NFC or show video of the Nexus S, and they'll take you to the browser page of the Nexus S. But that's pretty cool. It's one of those things, you know, they wanted to future-proof the phone, as they said in the press release. You know, NFC, while it's not in full use as of yet, it's something to keep in mind in the next couple of years, and something that they think is going to expand in the coming years. Otherwise, you know, design, again, we covered this in the unboxing, but design, power button on the top right-hand corner, just like the Galaxy S, volume rocker, and then your 3.5mm headphone jack is on the bottom, with the micro USB charging port. And you can see it has a 4-inch display, as I said, but it's a curved Super AMOLED display. And it's funny because the pictures really don't do it justice on the Nexus S website, and I saw those on the day it was announced. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I looked at it and I was like, this is the ugliest phone ever. Like, the angles that they have those pictures on the site make it look terrible. You know, I mean, they angle it like this and like that, but once you see it in real life, it looked like this stubby, kind of nasty-looking phone to me in the pictures, but it's actually a pretty decent-looking device in real life, and it's much longer than I thought. You know, than the pictures make it look. We'll look at the Quantum, for example. Even the Quantum is a little bit shorter. To me, in the pictures, this, you know, the Nexus S looks shorter than the Quantum, but you can see just as a size comparison there, that's what it looks like. So it's actually a pretty big device. I wouldn't say hefty, but pretty big device. And I don't think the pictures do it justice, but you can see the curved display there. See if I can angle it for you for the camera, put my hand behind it. That's the curved display. And it's not curved enough that you really notice it in day-to-day tasks, but when you are on the phone, I notice the curve as opposed to devices that aren't curved. And while I'm thinking about it, you know, another cool feature you see in Android 2.3 that you don't see in previous versions, it's a cool shut-off feature when you turn the device off or when the screen cuts off. It's almost like a little TV type animation it does, or something you would think of maybe on HBO or something like that. When you turn it off, bam, you can see it shuts off that way. So it's not as bland as just the screen powering off and then boom, you're done. Powers off to that little white line and then fades off in the background. So you see a lot of this in Android 2.3, a lot of little changes like that don't really make a difference in the day-to-day performance of the device, but just some minor changes that appeal, or that change the aesthetic of the operating system. You can see up here that I've downloaded an application and that I have a voicemail. You'll notice that those icons are different there. So you can see, you know, they're not as obtrusive as the older ones that were pretty big and took up a lot of the notification bar. These are much smaller on that front. So, you know, that's again, a lot of aesthetic changes with Android 2.3 that you didn't see in previous versions. Let's take a look at messaging because I want to show you the keyboard. This is the new Android 2.3 keyboard. It replaces the old kind of black and tall, narrow-keyed one that you see on the Epic 4G and a lot, you know, all the Android phones of the past. This one comes with Android 2.3. It's available for download if you know how to do that on the internet. And it's, you know, it's a personal thing. You know, I said this in the unboxing. I tried it for a couple days. I'm going to say it again. I don't like the new Android keyboard. I don't like the fact that they made the keys smaller and fatter. They went from being narrow, or tall and narrow, to short and fat. So, you know, for me, I was used to those tall and narrow keys. You know, in landscape mode, you don't really notice a huge difference. It's pretty easy there and pretty easy to type on. But you can see on the top, I don't know, for me, I made a lot of mistakes. Now watch, I'll type this and make no mistakes. But, you know, you can see, I mean, of course, you know, it seems fast right now. But I noticed I was making more mistakes on this keyboard than any others. And I downloaded some alternatives. You know, out of the box, it comes with the Android keyboard, and that's it. But I downloaded some alternatives like SwiftKey, Better Keyboard. And again, you know, they're okay. But for a stock keyboard, I would have liked the old one to have been on there. I don't care for the new one. Now, there are some new features in the keyboard, some different copy and paste functionalities. Let's say, you know, when I highlight the word today, I will select the word, and you can see the new pinchers there, if you will, where I can pinch one and migrate it out. So if we want to highlight the entire thing, I can shorten it to the how, do it like that. I can bring it up to just how R. So, excuse me, quite a bit of functionality there, and I can delete like that, and it's pretty easy. Now you see again another aesthetic change when it's auto-correcting the words. That's now orange. The text is orange, so you see a lot of orange border around the text messaging box here, around the word, or the color behind the words, and you see it in features like, not to jump around too much, but you see it in features when you go to settings and you scroll up. See that orange that's appearing at the top and the bottom when you reach the bottom and top of the list. A lot of the orange and green seem to be the theme, the color themes. Black, orange, and green seem to be the themes on Android 2.2 or 2.3 rather. Now you look at the phone, a little bit of a change here again from a design perspective. The buttons are slightly different. They're still island keys. And let me wipe that screen off real quick. They say they have some sort of fingerprint, anti-fingerprint coating on this. I'm going to call bull on that. I mean, it may be on there, but you know, after a few minutes of using it, it's still, fingerprints still exist. You can see that the buttons have changed slightly there. The buttons aren't as noticeable. They're little lines below, but again, they kind of fade into the black background there. So, but when you dial, lights up in a nice vibrant green here. So you can see, you know, easy to see, and then at the bottom you have your voicemail, call, and backspace keys. Now at the top you have call log, contacts, and favorites. Not a huge difference, if anything, from past versions of Android that aren't skinned versions like Moto Blur and Sense etc. You have your call log, your contacts, which you can use from the dialer, and then you have your favorites. So if I call, I don't know if it'll do it if I call once, but if I call the phone dog, for example, and hang up, go to favorites, and you can see the phone dog is in my favorites. It's based on the number of times I call somebody, and you know, that's a nice touch. If you have people that you call family, friends, you call on a regular basis, they're stored there. Now the downside for me, you know, I like to be able to delete those every now and again. I couldn't find a way to delete those without screwing up my contacts list, so I avoided doing that, but you can see it appeared in the call log as well. The call log overall, and this was more of a 2.2 change, the call log and the favorites a little bit more organized than it was in previous versions of Android. So, you know, on the talk of hardware for a few seconds, you know, the camera, I say this all the time in almost every one of my videos, so I know it gets old, but the screen, the camera really doesn't do it justice. The screen is absolutely gorgeous. That 4-inch Super AMOLED display runs circles around a non-AMOLED or non-Super LCD, whatever, you know, depending on the technology, device, like let's say the MyTouch 4G. I like the MyTouch 4G a lot, but in terms of just the screen, absolutely fantastic on the Nexus S. Looks great, performs well across the board, got no problems there. So let's go take a look at the Gmail application. And again, you know, this is a vanilla version, stock version of Android 2.3 installed on the Nexus S. So no carrier bloatware. No, you know, of course this is a T-Mobile. Just to clear up some confusion while I'm doing this, this is a T-Mobile optimized device. You'll get 3G on this with T-Mobile. You can buy it unlocked and you can use it on AT&T in the States, but you're not going to get 3G because the 3G band that's utilized in this is 1700 megahertz, which at the moment in the United States, T-Mobile is the only carrier that uses 1700 megahertz spectrum. So you can see here's the new Gmail interface, and it's newer than new. It's newer than the versions we've been looking at over the past couple of weeks. Now this isn't an Android 2.3 thing. You can go to the market if you're running 2.2 and download this yourself, but you'll notice that the inbox is highlighted, or there's the box above inbox. It's kind of funny. And then of course your typical box here where you can add new accounts from the main screen if you so desire. But let's take a look at, you know, Google Buzz, for example, and wait for it to load. Typical stuff like the header stays at the top, but what's really changed is when you go to respond to this, for example, it's the top part here that's changed. It shows reply, it shows the ability to save or the ability to send, nice big buttons, and coupled with the new keyboard, it looks pretty good. Now again, if you know you have a Droid X, you have the Evo or something running 2.2, you can go and download this yourself, this version of Gmail yourself from the Android market. But cool touch here, you know, when you're composing a new message. It's just one of those things that's a little bit easier to use versus the old method. They continue to make improvements, and to their credit, they've done a pretty good job. Let's take a look at the widgets while I'm thinking about it. Again, because it's a stock device, the widgets are few and far between. They're the typical Android widgets. Analog clock, calendar, Google search. This one comes with Google Voice. So you have the inbox and the settings widgets. Home screen tips, which we saw that one a minute ago. Market, music, news and weather, one of my favorite widgets that was that debuted on the Nexus 1 and, you know, was never on all the carrier Android 2.1 devices that were using Blur and Sense and TouchWiz. They never used news and weather, but then it came to life when they all got the Android 2.2 updates. So pretty cool there. Power control, YouTube, rate places, all the typical ones. You can see there's the Google search bar, there's the YouTube widget. Oh no, Zach and Vanessa, they're done? That's no good. That's no bueno. No more High School Musicals for us. Yes. The weather as well, and you can see Android market. See some of the widgets in the power control, which is slightly changed, or changed slightly in Android 2.3. A little bit of different icons. That's the GPS icon now. So again, you know, I keep harping on this, but a lot of aesthetic changes in 2.3 versus, you know, real substantial back-end changes.